Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to Unslaved. Happy to be back with you again. We have the return of one of my good friends, David Guenni. We did a show recently with him. I'll link it below. You got to check it out. We're getting into the history of Venezuela. He's a Venezuelan patriot that lives in the U.S. He's been studying geopolitics, and he's got a wealth of knowledge on what's been going on in the Latin American scene. We did that whole coverage in the last show, and we've also talked a lot about what's going on in American politics and geopolitics. He's a wealth of knowledge. He's got some great takes. And so I'm glad to have him back. Unfortunately, Michael couldn't make this one today. So it's just going to be the two Davids. We're going to take this ourselves. So welcome, everybody. And David, thank you so much for jumping back on Unslaved with us here.
Thank you, David. Thank the audience. And I hope Michael gets better. But it's always a pleasure. And, we've done on your show as well. It's been pretty cool.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's so much to get into today, and there's so many podcasts out there that people can listen to. But what I've really loved about this Unslaved platform is we get to speak to a very educated audience. The people here have heard every theory of everything possible because we try to give them a big, wide perspective on things. And there's also a hell of a lot going on right now in the world. I could speak from a Canadian perspective. We could do whole podcasts on that. I'm sure you could speak on so many things. But what Michael was interested in getting on this episode was we did a recent show, he and I, on right after Trump had gotten in, and some of the hopeful predictions of possibility, what was going on, the difference of this term versus his first term, how this affects the whole geopolitical chessboard. The pros and cons, right? There's so many things going on. There's so much misinformation out there as well. And there's a lot of unknowns still hanging in the air. And so we've done so many shows recently getting into like some of the deeper subjects like psychology, philosophy, history, trying to understand the origins of ideas. And that was part of the show we did with you. We called it Our Man in Caracas, where you did a really good breakdown of Latin American politics, the history there, and how, the building of socialism, like basically how the tyrannical aspects came into being, and that unique relationship between the people and the tyrants and the people trying to take power and all those different things. And so we are sort of zooming out now to see that, we've spoken in the past that there's a larger project, as it seems, in all Western countries and Latin American countries. I mean, it's a worldwide agenda to centralize power in the world. And it seems right now that America is really the last bastion in terms of being capable of getting other countries to get to the negotiation table, as in with all these tariffs, in being able to actually continue the experiment of Western civilization, even though it's not perfect. It's the closest we've got. And then we have Trump that's been in there as this character since 2016 that it's controversial no matter who you talk to. But I figured, you've been listening ear to the ground on this for a long time. You and I spoke about this for years back in the day. And I wondered, where are you at right now with the first quarter since Trump got inaugurated? It seems like the world is in a uncertain place right now. There's a lot of questions that are unanswered, right? But there's also been a lot of positive things that have happened that people like me have been hoping to see even just be talked about, let alone maybe get some action on the ground with it. So a lot to throw at you there, but sort of where are you sitting right now in the first quarter of Trump's term here?
So personally, it's optimism. It's cautious optimism, of course. I come from a life school and intellectual school of distrust, obviously, skepticism, high skepticism, and almost I want to say instinctive disdain for any sort of cult of personality, any sort of over magnification of personal qualities in politics, right? I am very much of the school of we don't elect father figures. We don't even elect people that we shouldn't be thinking of electing people in terms of personal likeness, emotional appeal. We're not befriending these people. These people are not there to become our, our grandparents or whatever. In the case of most countries, because it's always, usually pretty old folks, but which has its merits, different conversation. But what I'm saying is, I come from a very reticent view of politicians as individuals, as people, and that gets compounded by the fact that my view is also highly conspiratorial in the sort of alternative research sense of the word, but also in just kind of the realpolitik sense of the word. So there's that, right? And I have to always check myself as well, because that point of view and that worldview is also generating a bias, and that's something that everybody that has penchant for intellectual honesty should do, is to check their bias, no matter how righteous that bias might seem to be. The other thing is, as a Venezuelan, of course, I'm affected by some of the policy shifts that the new Trump administration has been implementing, or at least trying to implement in full-fledged or in full form. And I don't think that is something that affects my analysis, but it is something that I have to put out there for maybe folks who, would think he's kind of a traitor to his people or whatever, right? Because this happened in Trump won, and it was always a very interesting conversation, especially with the kind of the normie Trump deranged public. So,
are you talking about the issue of migration, mass migration?
Yeah.
Then basically like how the whole media painted his position on that as being purely racially motivated or something like that?
Right. That was in Trump 1. And then now they've had to come up with, and they're crafting it, right? And right now it's in the process of becoming part of the echo chamber of the, Democrat, intellectual left, whatever. But they went from, it's racially motivated, to now it's, Trump is the face of the new authoritarianism. And this is just kind of the stepping stones, right, for the fascists, structure building that they're trying to do. And the reason I bring it up is because I'm a TPS holder. My status is actually in hanging in the balance. Of course, we've taken other measures, me and my family and I, to obviously advance my situation in particular. But like I said, I don't think that affects my analysis. And if anything, I think I'm pretty good at detaching myself from that. And I think that'll be very clear in the next few minutes. But yeah, so they are trying to, the left at large, they are trying to portray the entire policy as something that has absolutely no basis in reality, and it's completely just motivated by xenophobia, and it's just almost a logical, part of the sort of the fascist regime building that is supposedly taking place. And I see this. I'm actually seeing this narrative being thread right now in so many different fronts of policy debates. And it's, obviously, to me, my first reaction is laugh. It's comical, but I start to think a bit more strategically about how the left works. And I think it's any surprise to anybody that they are building up the sentiment for another summer of love, 2020 BLM, Antifa, streets on fire scenario. And I think we do have to already, predict that, forecast that as something that's a
Well, and
given.
this is, and sorry to cut you off here, but this is good. First of all, I love how you opened it up. You know, you're cautiously optimistic. This is how I feel. I mean, I feel pretty optimistic on a lot of things just because of the time I've spent researching these kind of subjects, and the things that Trump is doing. No matter what people think when they look at it and how they're taking it, I know it's disrupting the apple cart of some very insidiously evil people in the world. Like some of these big think tanks and groups we've been exposing on Unslaved for a long time. All those people are absolutely pulling their hair out right now over what's going on. And they're trying to frame Trump's actions. And now Elon, with all the whole, let's go and start actual, destruction of his companies and his vehicles, and not swastikas all over the place. They've been trying to conflate every action done by, it doesn't even have to just be Trump. We've seen this in other countries, with Milei in Argentina, what's his name in the Netherlands, it's all over. Any politician that works on a populist model or is trying to dismantle this sort of corrupt element that's risen up in all these countries. In America,
populist nationalism.
What's that?
Populist nationalism, right?
Populist nationalism, right? Exactly. And so then all the left has to do is say, it looks nationalistic, therefore we can just keep equating it to Nazis and Hitler and keep going down that path. They talk about fascism all the time. They say the same thing about, in Canada, the conservative leader Pierre Poilievre, who's got the only chance to try to take the throne from Mark Carney, who's basically been installed by the British establishment at a last-minute saving grace period for themselves. It's the same thing. The exact same rhetoric. In fact, all the campaigns the Liberals are running in Canada against Pierre and the Conservatives are about how, as if Pierre is somehow best buddies with Trump and he's just pushing Trump policies, when actually the critics of the Conservatives is Pierre is soft as butter in terms of being even close to where Trump is coming from. And in many ways, Trump has never even acknowledged any kind of favor towards Pierre. So it's really interesting. And then when you swing over to American politics, they're just keeping the whole orange man bad. Trump is literally Hitler. It's fascism. And I always try to ask these people, because I get a lot of people that repeat those sound bites to me and they don't even know anything about the situation. And I just ask them for basic definitions. Can you define fascism? You're accusing him of building a fascist totalitarian state. Give me how does that work? What is that? Right. And I don't know if you've noticed this as well, but it's usually crickets on the other end. You don't really get a definition of that.
Yeah, it's funny when I hear that this would be the only fascism that de-evolves the power of the state and reduces spending and encourages free speech and actually.
What do you think about that? What do you think about the aid, like U.S. aid and Doge and all of that? I was shocked to see that the left, of all characters politically, was upset about Department of Government Efficiency. Like, why would they be so mad about it? And don't forget, like, Trump came from the left, Elon came from the left, Tulsi Gabbard came from the left, RFK Jr. came from the left, Ramsame came from everybody came, and these are like the dissidents of the left coming in to say, no, we're not doing this Marxist socialist policy. We're going to do it like this, and now they're just accused of being the worst possible things. And I think that's why the left keeps losing what's going on, because the average person is really starting to catch on to this,
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting dynamics. I think we're really living in a unprecedented time within the span of what we understand as history. And I frame it in a way that Victor Davis Hanson brought up as a counter-revolution. As I started saying, this would be the equivalent of a paleoconservative revolution, but it's really, let's just look at it at the highest level possible, right? So we have something in the world for multiple centuries going on, right? That is trying to consolidate power and control in absolute terms in very few hands worldwide. And it is not